So, what's it like to be gay in Sweden? Well, it depends. It depends on whether or not your neighborhood is white. Depends on whether you're living among Swedes or if you're living in a segregated no-go zone where immigrants make out 90% of the population. An immigrant by the name of Mahmoud says that you get beat up as soon as they know that you're gay and shows the reporter how he cut himself in an attempt to take his own life. This attempted suicide occurred after he was hospitalized for 10 days because a gang in his ghetto nearly beat him to death. They chased him with knives, and when they got a hold of him, they wailed on him with strikes as they were shouting "fucking homo" and said that they were gonna kill him like a dog. Oh, and by the way, in case you didn't know, dogs are considered to be impure animals according to some Muslims in the Arab world. Hence the insult. Mahmoud says that living in this Swedish neighborhood is like living in the 18th century, or Iran, and that he's simply become used to not being happy with the person that he is. Another person, a Swedish girl in a different ghetto, says that you just don't feel safe in these areas. One incident in particular is when she was approached by a gang who shouted homophobic remarks and decided to punch her in the face and body about 20 times. Police say that LGBT individuals face double issues in Swedish ghettos. There's both the external threat from gangs and local norms, as well as the internal threat from their own families. An analyst who used to work with the police says that many Swedes don't understand this phenomenon, that your actions are not your own. If a foreign woman comes out as lesbian, it affects all the women in her family. And if a man comes out as gay, all the men in the family are viewed as weak. You become a threat that needs to be put in your place. A living example of this who was interviewed is Fatima, age 27. When the local gangs found out she was a lesbian, it was done for. She and her girlfriend were walking home one evening, madly in love, enjoying the scenery as the sun was setting, when 6 older guys surrounded them in an alley, called them gross, pulled her hijab, and said that they were going to rape them into normal beings, and that they would get to taste Negro cock. The 2 women just barely escaped the situation. Fatima is a lesbian Muslim. Her dad had a very hard time understanding that combo at first, but now he's become supportive of her. But the relatives in her home country are not. Because they found out about her sexual orientation, she's being forced to marry her uncle. If she doesn't, they will rape her little sister and then kill them both in order to maintain honor. And these aren't threats, they're guarantees. So she's agreeing to this arrangement in order to save her sister, herself, and her girlfriend, who she won't be seeing anymore. Another homosexual immigrant by the name of Samir says that even the underground gay culture in the Middle East is more forgiving than these neighborhoods in Sweden. Even in countries that enforce the death penalty for homosexuality, there's at least some kind of understanding underneath the surface. But places like Angered, Biskopsgården, and Bergsjön are worse. It's like you have to deny your existence to survive. A mother who was interviewed says that their family came to Sweden from Iran 15 months ago so her transsexual son could live in freedom. The family did extensive research to find a country that would be safe, at which point Sweden became appealing. But now he's in a school where 99% of the students don't have Swedish parents, and it's worse than Iran. The mother is doing everything she can to get him into a school that's dominated by Swedish people. Ardeshir is a homosexual Muslim who runs an organization devoted to helping immigrant LGBT individuals in Gothenburg. He went around lecturing about LGBT at immigrant-dominated schools in the ghettos. In one school, a student almost beat him up. In a different school, his lecture was interrupted by teachers and faculty assistants who didn't even belong to the class that he was lecturing to. But they felt so provoked by his message about universal love that they entered the classroom and started questioning what he was saying. They didn't have a problem with him being a homosexual, but they found it completely unacceptable that he's a homosexual and Muslim. Ardeshir says that these problems only pertain to immigrants. He's been to schools where the majority of students were ethnic Swedes, and he's never had any problems there. After these incidents I've mentioned, he's felt it necessary to bring with him 4 police officers whenever he goes out to lecture at immigrant schools. The immigrants call him a fucking faggot and race traitor because he's a homosexual immigrant. He's been threatened by students and staff alike, and after visiting one school in particular, he got a package in the mail with a picture of Hitler and a dead dog, and a note saying, "We know everything about you. Your kind is not welcome here. You're gonna die like a dog." Again with the fucking dogs? I don't know what's worse. The fact that certain neighborhoods in Sweden are worse than the Middle Ages, or that every testament to this horrible situation is met with pathetic relativizations from leading figures in the Swedish LGBT movement. According to them, it's just as bad being gay in rich, white, middle-class communities full of Swedish people. Yeah, because rich people go out into the streets and beat up homosexuals, right? That happens all the time. Haven't you seen those gangs consisting of white guys in suits and monocles and top hats screaming, "We're gonna rape you with our black dicks until you turn normal"? Happens all the time, dude. Black dicks until you turn normal. Of course, homophobia can exist in all kinds of places, even white picket fence Swedish neighborhoods where Christianity is popular. But you don't get your ass kicked by the Christians here. They're just kind of annoying and intolerant at best. They don't try to kill you. The president for the West Pride LGBT Festival in Gothenburg says, "A lesbian transgender person in an upper-class community has it just as bad with her Christian family as the young lesbian in the ghetto being threatened by her Muslim family. Though there is a difference, and that difference is that LGBT individuals in the Swedish ghettos are more stigmatized since they're also breaking the whiteness norm and being exposed to structural racism in Swedish society. The blonde person that's being oppressed at least doesn't have to deal with that type of oppression." It's absolutely amazing that when asked about homophobia in Muslim ghettos, you manage to take a shit on white people while completely avoiding the issue of Muslim honor killings. Are you some kind of magician? I think the definition should be widened here, because that should definitely be qualified as magic. Wow! Just wow! Wow! Some leaders in the Swedish Pride movement also think it's borderline racist to even bring up the issue of problems in the ghetto, or as they like to call it, socio-economically challenged neighborhoods with parallel norm structures. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Why are you trying to make it sound like the instruction manual for building a spaceship? Just call it the ghetto! Relativizing this issue shows that you're completely aware of the situation, but don't want to do anything to actually change it. You've essentially made a conscious decision to completely betray and ignore the massive need of safety for these immigrant homosexuals and trannies. The regressive left with their bullshit identity politics are a bigger threat to gays and trannies than right-wing nationalists will ever be. Your gay pride marches aren't about gay rights, it's about making yourself look trendy. If you cared about LGBT individuals, you wouldn't be holding pride marches in the hip inner city of Stockholm. You'd be holding it in the ghettos, where ISIS runs around asking people if they want to join the fight against dirty infidels. It's for this reason that the alternative pride parade, Pride Järva, was started up in 2015 by a man named Jan Gunnarsson. He was inspired by the Muslim mayor of Amsterdam, who arranged a gay pride parade through a homophobic Muslim ghetto, because that's where it's needed the most. And in Sweden, it had never been done before. This alternative parade goes through some of the most dangerous ghettos in Stockholm. So of course it was labeled as racist, Islamophobic and homophobic, which is pretty funny considering the support they received from immigrant Muslim homosexuals. The man who went around lecturing schools said that it was a fantastic idea, and two other gay Muslims told the newspaper it's the most important thing that's happened in years, and that they felt enormous exclusion where they live due to their sexual orientation, never feeling respected or like they're part of their community. So what did the Swedish left do to honor these Muslim homosexuals? Instead of pulling off the same concept and turning it into their own, they arranged a counter demonstration to protest the so-called racist bastard pride parade. That's how fucking retarded the left wing is here. They don't actually give a shit about minorities. It's all about those social brownie points. If they truly believed that immigrants are as progressive as Swedes when it comes to gays, they would have no problem marching through the ghettos and including them in the Swedish tradition. But they don't actually believe that. That's why they're afraid of doing it. The controversy surrounding the parade was also due to the fact that Jan Gunnarsson is involved with the Sweden Democrats, the Conservative Nationalist Party, and the only party who wants to decrease immigration and enforce assimilation policy. Now, this is the same march that gay icon Milo Yiannopoulos has declared that he's going to be attending this year on the 27th of July. Information for those who want to attend and get to meet him can be found in the video description. I think it's awesome that Milo is gonna join. It's just great that offensive conservatives are taking over the Pride concept. Because as far back as I can remember, the Pride parade and LGBT issues in general have been kidnapped by the regressive left. And they don't deserve to represent homosexuals any longer, because they fucked it up. They think that you can't be gay and right-wing. That if you're gay, you have to be a left-wing extremist, because otherwise you're a traitor. Just look at these Pride incidents over the years. The center-right Liberal Party were forbidden to attend the Pride parade in Uppsala because they didn't share their vision. The Organization for Gay Policemen in Sweden have been part of the parade for years with their own section of the Pride train. But in 2013, a number of activists jumped in front of them holding signs saying, "Queers still not loving police," essentially saying that if you're gay, you have to be anti-cop. They continued walking like this for 150 meters before being forcefully removed from the train, and when later asked about their stunt, they said, "We were protesting against cops joining the parade. They help deporting refugees. They have no place here." I have no idea what immigration politics has to do with men fucking each other up the ass, but okay. Another year, some anti-war activists protest the presence of gay military at the Pride parade. Their reasoning was some heroin-fueled bullshit about how the military is based on patriarchal power structures that oppress gays and transsexuals. I'm pretty sure the person interviewed had no actual idea what the fuck he was saying. LGBT issues have been under the monopoly of the very same people who created problems for LGBT individuals to begin with. People who refuse to deal with homophobia when it's imported. People who created this intolerant, politically correct debate climate, which makes it impossible to get to the root of the issue and implement the necessary remedies. And now they're mad because they fucking suck at protecting minorities, they're being called out on it, and they're not allowed to use trannies and gays as pets anymore. I love it! A Pride parade is not just some feel-good event. It's supposed to be a provocative protest to achieve social change. That purpose is no longer being fulfilled in the inner city where there's so many latte masturbating hipsters that every day is like a Pride parade. Who the fuck's afraid of being openly gay in the whitest, trendiest neighborhoods in Stockholm? And before anyone misunderstands me, ethnicity is not the problem. The problem is cultural beliefs being left unchallenged, and that Sweden doesn't believe in assimilation. Instead, it believes that all cultures should live side by side, and that nobody should have to give up their identity. That's like saying that Nazis and Jews should attend dinner parties together because our differences make us stronger. Sweden's progressive culture is better than other countries. Why the fuck should we apologize for that? If our culture wasn't superior, why would LGBT individuals be fleeing to Sweden? If our country is just as good as Iraq, why don't they stay in Iraq? Certain cultures are better than others, because certain cultures respect women, homosexuals, and freedom of speech more than others. I don't believe in tolerance for the sake of tolerance. I believe in true virtues, like freedom of expression, freedom of choice, taking responsibility for your actions, and allowing others to live as they like as long as they don't hurt anybody else. It's just too bad that the establishment in Sweden doesn't believe in any of that.